The Halo franchise is no stranger to iconic designs. After all, it's the home of the elites, the Warthog, the energy sword, you name it. The point is, while all of these designs are crucial to a Halo game, none of them has even come close to the overwhelming feeling of nostalgia, hope, and badassery of the Mark VI. Greetings, Vernissage here. In this series, we'll take a closer look at the artistic designs of the Halo universe and go into great detail of the changes made throughout the years. And what better way to start this off than the Master Chief's most recognizable helmet, the Mark VI. But before we do that, let's go back a few years and see where it all began. Chief's look in Halo Combat Evolved was something ripped straight out of a power fantasy, outfitting you in shining green, bulky armor, along with a dirtbag-style helmet. The Mark V, without a doubt, got the job done, and definitely succeeded in making us feel truly like a walking tank. There's a reason why it's been in every mainline Halo game since Halo 3. However, there was a problem with the design. Chief didn't have any eyes. Alright, I'll explain. See this image of the Mark VI? It looks pretty normal, right? Well, how about now? Those lines aren't just there for the sake of it. They give Chief a sense of personality. They give him, for lack of a better word, eyes. What purpose they serve in the universe, I honestly have no idea. But they are way more important to Chief than you might think. Now I can only speculate, but I think Bungie realized this during the development of Halo CE, because they chose a not very long-term solution to this problem: drop shadows. Instead of using visor lines as most other Mjolnir helmets do, the Mark V used these shadows to give off the illusion that Chief had quote-unquote eyes. And I mean, it worked for a 2001 video game, but as graphics would improve, so would shadows. So depending on the time of day, Chief might not would have had his eyes at all times. The Mark V's era was over for now, but Bungie had something new in the works. Something that would change Master Chief's look forever. Halo 2 was announced at E3 2002, and along with it, the Master Chief rocking his new armor. This was the first time we got to see the Chief's new definitive look, and boy was it a sight to behold. What stood out the most about his new set of armor was the amount of detail. Mark V looked the way it did because of the limitations of graphics at the time. Mark VI, on the other hand, pushed the original Xbox to its very limit, and it shows in the design. The Mark VI in Halo 2 had depth not yet seen in the franchise until then, and it even had scratch marks and dirt all over it. It's also much more angular than its predecessor, and the top of the helmet opted for a matching green look instead of the black we saw in CE, which wouldn't see the light of day again for years to come. It also ditched the whisker-looking vents of the Mark V to make room for tubes on the sides instead. Bungie knew it was a good design. And if it ain't broke... After the worldwide success that was Halo 2, the third installment in the franchise was a given. And Bungie did not disappoint. The game definitely kept the core feeling of Halo 2, but it did differentiate itself. While Halo 2 truly made you feel like a super soldier spitting one-liners, Halo 3 was a bit more subtle. This not only shows in the music, Halo 2 hitting you with its distorted guitars, while Halo 3 put more focus on the piano, but it also shows in the design. At first glance, these two helmets look almost identical, but the Mark VI in Halo 3 does have its own voice. While Chief from Halo 2 looks more aggressive in both color and angularity, his new helmet opts for a more round silhouette and a darker, colder army green. While Master Chief's journey was over for now, Bungie wasn't done with the Halo franchise, at least not for a couple of years. Halo Reach was Bungie's last Halo game, and it's clear they wanted to try something different. The story and gameplay of Halo had always been adored, but now for the first time, the community was divided. Although the same couldn't be said for the player customization of Reach. Visor colors, armor effects, robotic arms, the game had everything. It introduced brand new helmets, but also brought back some classics as, you guessed it, the Mark VI. The Mark VI this time around was a prototype in lore, and its appearance makes that very clear. It brings back the black top all the way from Mark V in Combat Evolved, which sorta gives this in-between Mark V and VI look. Other than that and small details such as simplified visor lines, the helmet generally kept what worked with the Mark VI in Halo 3. While the Chief's armor was in Reach, the man himself wasn't, although his story wasn't nearly over. After Bungie had left Halo, Microsoft knew fans were hungry for more, and we wouldn't have to wait long until their new studio, 343 Industries, released the long-awaited sequel, Halo 4. Halo 4 was different from what came before it in almost every way, for better or for worse, that's up to you. Although it can't be argued that the Chief was more detailed than ever before. The story mirrored the design of the Mark VI really well this time around. Having a much more mature and emotional Chief meant fleshing out his appearance as well. The helmet keeps the overall silhouette of its predecessors, but that's about as far as it goes. Every part of it is just filled with details. The mouthpiece, the black parts, even the visor adds more than just the typical lines. And for the first time, a second green color was introduced to give it more depth, which we can see on the top middle and on the sides of the mouthpiece. The visor also moved away from the gold one we were so familiar with, and was changed to a more orange color. Halo 4 had more than just one Mark VI, however. The multiplayer had its own. While taking a lot of inspiration from the classic Mark VI, they made it feel a bit more almost organic. And I know I sound like a broken record, but there is a lot of detail on this bad boy. Halo 4 left the community divided. There was no way that 343 were gonna mess up their next project, right? The Master Chief Collection sounded great on paper, and it was, if it weren't for the horrible launch. But that's besides the point. We all know the story. The MCC not only brought back all the mainline Halo games featuring the Master Chief, but it also remastered the Halo game many of us hold dear, Halo 2. And we'd seen Master Chief many times before, but we had never seen him like this. Out of all the helmets, the one it resembles the most is, for obvious reasons, Halo 2's. Although the edges seem a bit more sharp, and it features more black parts than the original Halo 2 helmet, specifically right below the visor. Other than that, and some minor details, the remastered Halo 2 Mark VI definitely stays true to the Chief back in 2004. But we're not done with this game. See, Halo 2 Anniversary had a separate multiplayer, and a separate Mark VI. And it's clearly an evolution of the Mark VI in Halo 4's multiplayer, but it is its own helmet. There's a black stroke right below the visor, and the nose piece, I guess, is now colored instead of being black. Other than that, and the overall shape of the helmets look almost the same. A lot of people weren't happy with this overly designed art style 343 had at the moment. But was this next game it? Were they finally gonna redeem themselves? While I really enjoyed Halo 4, a lot of people didn't. This meant that some of us had waited for a good Halo experience since Reach, and some even since Halo 3. 2015's Halo 5 Guardians definitely didn't fix that. Now I'm not gonna waste any time on explaining what happened to this game, so let's just move on to the design. The Chief's armor in this game is just a slight reimagining of the Halo 4 Mark 6. Probably the most notable difference was the colored undersuit, but you've all heard the rants. Let's just talk about the helmet. The helmet is basically the one from Halo 4, with some minor differences. Most notably, the color is much more warm this time around, and brings back the gold visor we all love. There's not much else to say about this helmet, besides maybe a part of the quote-unquote teardrops on the visor were removed. Other than that, it's very similar. Halo 5 also had its own Mark 6 for its multiplayer, the Mark 6 Gen 1, and it also bears a lot of resemblance to Halo 4's. It's pretty much the exact same helmet, just with a new color scheme, and bringing in a prominent secondary color. There's also the Mark 6 Gen 2 variant, which is the same helmet without the darker colors. There is one more, the Mark 6 Gen 1 Scarred. This helmet is basically the same as the other Gen 1, but it's seen better days. It has a cracked visor, and it's missing much of the facade of the helmet, exposing its insides. Surprisingly, the color schemes differ a bit, but it's a really small detail. This entry in the franchise almost killed Halo, but somehow there was hope, and even more hope was delivered. The year is 2018. You just sat down to watch E3 and you see this trailer. It opens up with some shots of nature, wildlife, and old ruins. What is this game? It seems familiar but still alien. You start seeing military equipment, so it's some kind of open world shooter? But this definitely seems familiar. You see some Marines? Are they? No, they're not holding BRs, are they? Before you can even speculate any longer, there he is. No overly designed mess, just simply the Chief. Halo Infinite is upon us. This helmet alone gave us hope that Halo might be back, and there's a good reason for that. While the helmet is definitely new, it's clear it's inspired by Halo 2 and 3's Mark 6. The visor lines are much more akin to the classic design, and the tubes from the Bungie era Mark 6 were back. Although there is some Halo 4 and 5 in it as well. The formalness and the very straight lines still make it 343's own design. Something in between, but definitely more classic. We'd have to wait a whole year to see Chief again, and during that time, it seemed he'd gotten a makeover. The helmet was now much more in line with the Bungie design, more specifically the Halo 3 Mark 6. These helmets are very similar, with a few differences such as the holes on the mouthpiece of the Infinite design, and also the more precise curves and lines. It did, however, sport almost the same energetic green the Halo 2 one had. On a personal note, his latest design is probably my favorite Mark 6 to this day. But it is a bit sad that we probably will never see the 2018 design ever again. It was the perfect blend of the two art styles, so I'm not sure what to think, to be honest. I'm just happy we got the classic Chief back. And that wraps it up. That's all of the Mark 6 armors I could think of in the games, and there were quite a few. This is my personal ranking of the helmets. I'd love to know what your guys' favorite Mark 6 helmet is. Let me know in the comments below. And as you may have noticed, this is my first video, so if you actually enjoyed it, leave a like, as that would make my day, and let me know if you guys would be interested in more of this. If you really enjoyed it, share it around, and if this video does well enough, I might just actually make another one of these evolution videos. Now if you're interested in checking out the helmets that were featured here, or just Halo art in general, you can find me on my Instagram at Vernissage, or on Twitter at LuminousCactus. I wish you all the best, and take care. Vernissage, out.